Hi everyone, good morning. Good morning, James. Good morning, Bea. Good morning.
Hi.
G'day to you both.
To see you again.
And welcome again to this unnamed podcast. Did
Oh,
we
we
choose
do
the name?
have a name this week,
We
Nikki.
have a name this week. What's the name? Everything changes in life. Everything is impermanent, but the name of the podcast is, again, I forgot.
The CFT Manual Chats.
The safety manual chat. Okay. The safety manual chat. Okay. But okay, so today,
I
what
have
is
a feeling we're going to be reminding ourselves this every episode.
the
We'll
name
get
can
to it by the
change.
last episode, everyone.
I had a cat one day and I used to change the name because I was really believing in change. I really believe in it. But wait,
Christ.
this is another side. Okay, so today the plan was to talk a little bit about another very important part of the manual, which is how it is structured and also how we ended up choosing the word module. Do you remember, James? That was like a long history itself. And also we'll talk a little bit about, if we have time, about how to use it, how to use these modules, and how to be creative about these modules. Was this the plan? Was the
Yeah,
plan? Is there anybody?
that sounds
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, James, you will start.
okay. Yeah, no, I think one of the things early on was, you know, as we were developing what we thought were the important elements to include, it became a very clear sticking point of like, hang on, is it 12 sessions? Is it 10 sessions? Is each session 1 hour? Is each session 2 hours? How do you do everything you need to do around sort of three circles, for example, in a 1 hour session? Like, how do we, deal with this tricky situation when you're trying to do it, present it as a manual? And so the obvious answer was in creating them as modules. So it was like we saw these sort of modules or themes as being very important to cover. However, how long is needed for each of those themes and modules we want to put into the hands of the clinician? So depending on the group you're working with, or whether or if you're doing it individually in one-on-one therapy, there could be different speeds one can go through, or perhaps not all 12 modules of importance. Maybe for this particular person with what's going on, maybe these six in particular are more important. So the idea is being guided by your formulations, and in the book we have a chapter on formulations, is being guided by the formulation and what you are able to do with your client together. Start to have a think about, okay, well, I think out of the, if I was to take a CFT approach, to begin with, at least these three modules are really important, but these three modules I might do over 5 sessions or something like that. And those 5 sessions might be 1 hour long. However, at the same time, we've also given a suggestion within the manual that you could deliver it as a group, and each of those modules could be a 2 hour group session. And you just kind of space it out weekly in that manner. So there are lots of different ways to tailor it to the group that you're working with, and also the setting as well. Beatrice or Nikki, like, did you have?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, we didn't specify, I mean, you touched upon it, of course, but we didn't specify that. What we tried to do was also include different modalities of delivering this. Exactly, we thought about the case where you're going through this process with a group. So, and of course, there are different kinds of groups, different dimensions of the group. So you might have smaller groups like 8, 10 people, or you might have bigger groups, so up to 30 people. You might have or you might have different people making up that group. So there are, like general groups, people from all kinds of backgrounds, or you might have people who are sharing same diagnosis, for example, or same lived experience. same functioning. So there are different types of groups that we can work with. And of course, it's going to be different every time. So that's why it was important for us to provide a structure that can be tailored to the specific group that you're working with. And the same goes for individual clients. So this whole process can also be explored with an individual client. And of course, there it's going to be different. There will be the formulation at the base, of course. And you're going to probably also have more possibilities to kind of be flexible with it because, you know, I mean, it's an individual setting. And of course, when you're working with an individual, you are working with different traits of that individual and different characteristics. And so, of course, again, you're going to be able to pick which elements of compassion you think, of compassion-focused therapy, you think that might be more useful for that person. And then we also catered to different ways of delivery, different modalities of delivery. I mean, of course, now we're recording this podcast on Zoom. So we wanted to highlight the fact that these kinds of group work and individual work and of practices can be delivered both in person, which of course we've been doing for many years, but as well as through teletherapy, so online therapy, Zoom, Meet, whatever you're using. And which is something that, for example, me and Nikki have been doing here in Italy. We've been doing compassionate mind training online for many years now, and it works brilliantly, I'd say. And so we kind of tried to provide some little suggestions here and there on how to adapt some practices to online delivery as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and in fact, I would like to add something on this. And the idea of flexibility mirrors in a wonderful way what has been happening in research, really, because, you know, many papers have been showing that CFT can be delivered in many ways. There can be short CFT intervention, or there can be longer CFT intervention. Comes to my mind, you know, Kate Lucry she's been delivering CFT over years. I think she has she's been running groups that are much longer than 12 sessions. But since, you know, pretty fresh with the meta-analysis we did, and also you, James, you know, all the research on CFT, the majority of, you know, interventions are around 8/10 sessions, and some research, you know, interventions were longer. So we thought that 12 interventions is also the amount of exposure that you need in order for you to train, I would say, the compassion muscle. And in fact, but at the same time, we were really aware that for some people, some groups, some individuals, maybe you need a little bit less, because and shorter sessions. Some individuals might need longer exposure. Comes to my mind, you know, the paper that Paul just published on bipolar clients, and they needed, I think, 24 sessions. And what came up out of this paper is that they kind of need more exposure to the material. And again, I would like to say this. So if it is so flexible, why would we need a structure? Well, it is like when you go to the gym. It's not that I go to the gym very often, I have to say, but, you know, just I used this metaphor. But when you go to the gym, I come to, you know, but I like the gym as a metaphor, not as a real place. By the way, when you go to the gym, I kind of remember that your personal trainer wants you to go to a specific set of exercises, and you don't start with with lifting 200 kilos. And so there is a little bit of like a sequence of things you do, right? So you start with some small exercise, and maybe if you see that the body is strong enough, you can go a little bit quicker, and you can jump into higher lifts. Can I say that? Or you notice that if you have a body that had some injuries, or if you're struggling with something, you might go a little bit slower on some parts of the training. And so given it that I love gym so much, and given that CFT is a training, the training has both flexibility, but also a little bit of a flow, right? And the concept of flow. And in fact, when you start a training, you don't really begin with lifting, 200 kilos. You don't really immediately begin with, in CFT, with dealing with self-critical part and voice, because that would be, you need a little bit of preparation. So that was the idea of flexibility, but also a flow, suggestions on how to proceed, how to move from the beginning to the end of the training, assuming that there is an end of a training. I don't think there is
Yeah,
an
yeah,
end
yeah,
of a
yeah,
training.
yeah.
By the way, that was
That's a
wanted to
bigger
say.
question, Beatrice. But no, but tying into that, our flow or sequencing of events that we've kind of suggested here is a kind of a trans kind of diagnostic approach to kind of therapy. Kind of follows a lot of the compassionate mind training flows out there, and a lot of the programs that you've mentioned in the meta-analyses. I mean, did we want to briefly mention what the flow is, like in terms of
Yeah,
what
we could go through just like the main titles, which is something that then we'll explore further in future episodes, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nick, have you got them in front of you?
Yeah.
Yeah, Beatrice, do you want to? I mean, really, the first 5 modules are almost like what every kind of compassionate focused therapy intervention would really kind of do, and that's kind of all the preparation to build up into the compassion itself. But do you have the titles there?
Yeah,
Babe?
well,
Do you
for
want-
the first module, we start with an introduction to compassion. So we delve into what compassion is and where it comes from, the qualities of compassion, flows of compassion. So we kind of like start to introduce all the main concepts related to compassion. And then we have module 2, which is a very big one, where we talk about the 3 affect regulation system. So the 3 circles. And
That's right.
yeah, so then we go into mindfulness with module 3, which is one of the main skills that we have to develop to approach CFT as well. There are so many elements of mindfulness, even in the practices of CFT. So that's something that we work on at the very beginning. And then in module 4, we had exploring safety and safeness and some elements of the first flow of compassion, which is receiving compassion from others. And then module 5, we go into starting to build our compassionate self. So that's kind of the bases that we form, kind of like, the, how do you say, the foundation for what we will build on later, which is all about starting to explore the multiple selves in module 6. Self-criticism in module 7, that's another huge module, of course, because alongside module 8, which is on shame and guilt. So these 2 modules are also core because, of course, compassion focused therapy was developed to work with clients with high traits of self-criticism and shame. And so these are, I feel, these are other 2 big modules that potentially could become a whole training in themselves, So that's, again, coming back to that idea of the modules and not the sessions. You could be doing 12 sessions just on module 7, potentially.
Yeah, sure. Exactly.
So, and then after that, the following modules kind of go deeper into the elements that have already been touched on previously. So it's kind of a deepening of the previously touched upon elements. So in module 9, we have deepening compassion for the self. And we have so many additional practices that we've kind of like tried to come up with using also different mediums. So not only imagery, but so mental imagery, but also like practices in pairs, as well as using drawing or using writing. So there's lots of different practices in there. It's really a practice-based module. And then we go into module 10 and 11, where we have 2 specific themes, which are which we kind of focus on through a compassionate lens. So module 10 is on assertiveness and module 11 is on forgiveness. And we've tried, again, I feel like these two could potentially become, like weekend workshops in and of themselves, if, of course, you've previously worked on building that compassionate base. And then finally, we have module 12, which is about envisioning a compassionate future. So it's this idea that Nikki was touching upon before, that, the compassionate path doesn't really end. And this is actually something that we have in one of our diagrams at the very beginning, the compassionate path. And it shows that, as we walk along this path, we collect new resources that are can be helpful for us along the way, and they can sustain us in going towards a compassionate direction. But then once we finished, the training, we will keep walking along that path. So the path of compassion doesn't really end. The meetings with other companions or like sessions with my therapist can finish, but that does not mean that my personal journey alongside with compassion ends there. And also the idea that we like to get across is that you can always come back to compassion. So once you've built that foundation, it's something that is there. Your compassionate self, once you've built it up, you've engaged in dialogue with it, you've gotten to know it better, even if you don't contact it every single day, it's there. So it's that secure base kind of,
James, I'm thinking that you should talk about the structure of each module, because you were so crucial in coming up with, we should organize the modules in a way that is.
I think Beatrice was absolutely fundamental with that. But I mean, so we've got that flow that Beatrice took us through there. And we've given some suggestions too of measures that you can take, before you start, also to give you a sense of where the person is at that stage, and also to assess how the therapy is going. And within each module itself, we also point out, different fears, blocks, and resistances are going to emerge with this, particularly with, compassion. And we kind of provide some ideas on how to work with those, FBRs, fears, blocks, and resistances, as they come up in each module. But each module itself, kind of starts with, just a little brief introduction. Now I'm just showing, the book here on the Zoom, but video recording, which won't be picked up on the podcast. But just some overall aims it kind of begins with. And then there's just a one-page summary of the key processes involved in that particular module. And this took a lot of effort, actually, to work out, okay, in this module, what are the key phases that we want to touch on, that we can kind of, make it clear. So you've got this one pager in front of you, and it's like, okay, well, in module 1, phase 1, welcome the group or welcome the client, get into the CFT definition of compassion, and let's get into the evolved tricky brain and loops in the mind. And then, preparation for the compassionate path and wrap up are those 5 phases in module 1. But that's just there to give like an overall bird's picture. And then we give the more detailed kind of notes around, okay, this is the elements within this phase that you could follow. And then we provide, of course, some scripts, just ideas that you can follow for some of the key practices. Like, so in module 1, there's you've even recorded one, Nikki, on the website, right?
It's on the website. Everything is on the website. All the recordings are on the website, and all the handouts.
What recording did you do?
I did.
One. Do you remember?
Let me see. I remember.
You probably remember. Beatrice probably remember.
Wait. So the first module, the recording of the first module is Realities of Life. Realities of Life. So it's an intense meditation, but that sets the stage for the work.
So you got Nikki's audio recording there that you could use, but there's also the script which you could read. but you could also, as a clinician, get a sense of what are the core components in it, and then say it in your own words, which would I suspect be the best. So
Yeah.
that's there though to give you extra resources that you've got for you. And then we've got the client handouts as well, so that you can print out and photocopy. They're all on the website too, and thankfully a lot of them are in color in the book, which is really
They're
cool.
in color. Thank you, Routledge, for allowing us to have that in color. It was really
It was really
amazing.
important to us.
And
I mean,
so
some
I'm
of them are
gonna-
just so cool. Like, some good green there, some good green circle color. Sorry, I'm showing another one of the really cool diagrams
Yeah.
Beatrice helped put together.
So my friends, I'm aware we are about to also end this episode. We've been talking for 20 minutes, and I hope it was helpful for everyone listening to us. There's something actually I wanted to say regarding the structure that you, James, just showed us. We decided to do that because a lot of clinicians, given the richness of CFT, sometimes we could really get lost in like, what is the essential? Actually the name of the manual was because really CFT is so insightful and rich that we really wanted to say, okay, if in this session you at least cover, these elements, for sure in a way that you capture the core essence of CFT. And in fact, also when we were writing the meta-analysis, the idea was like how we can define CFT, what practices, what psychoeducation elements really define CFT. And we wanted to make it so structured because we wanted to give all clinicians the sense of like, okay, yeah, even if I didn't have time to do this and that, but at least I know that I covered the essentials of CFT, the elements. And I know that's very important for us to deliver elements of compassion that are important for the CFT community. For example, the fact that compassion focused therapy is not only self-compassion or is not really involved with only kindness, or it is not love in a sense. So we hope that we made it. We hope that now with the structure that James just showed us, it is clear for all of us clinicians, CFT clinicians, what really is essential in a way. And then if you have more time, you can do more, and you can create your own scripts, and you can record your own voice, and which is actually much better. So that was just the idea behind this structure, and behind also the title, Essentials of Compassion Therapy.
Exactly. That was such a genius idea of yours, Nikki. With you came up with the essentials. That was fantastic. The next episode, we're going to dig into module 1, which is compassion. And that was a tricky one because we even, some researchers and clinicians are sometimes even like, should we even call it compassion? Should we have a different name? Or, do you say, do you say the word right from the beginning, or should you go through circles first? So we'll unpack a bit of that next week in the next episode, or whenever we do it. But that will be juicy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you guys.
Next.
See you soon. Bye.